Hello friends and family. I decided to do a vlog to help to chronicle the information that we were learning at the Star Center so that Jason and I can remember and refresh our minds, but also that so we can share this information with you so that you know a little bit more about our journey through this program and a little bit more about the special challenges that Sam faces as a kid with sensory processing disorder. So this is Wednesday. This is day 3 of our time at the Star Center. Monday we had his occupational therapy evaluation. It was a 2-hour evaluation and they looked at a whole gamut of different things. They started with a sit-down time of following directions and doing some like hand-eye coordination and fine motor skills. Then we went into the gross motor types of coordination things, kicking balls, playing in the gym, swinging, climbing, jumping, sliding, all of those different types of things for the occupational therapy evaluation. Yesterday, which was Tuesday, we had the speech evaluation. And it was kind of organized in the same way. She began by doing some sit-down time of making sure that he was able to understand language and follow directions. She did some oral motor skills, looking at how he uses his tongue and his lips and coordination. And then we did some big play too, climbing and finding things, helping him to remember things in a sequence, and responding to stories and that type of thing. We haven't gotten the speech evaluation yet. That will be this afternoon. But so far we've done the 2 evaluations. This morning we had our first parent meeting. We found a babysitter for Sam and she played with Sam in the next room while we talked to the occupational therapist Lindsay about her findings. So that's kind of what I want to focus on talking about today, is a little bit about the findings that Lindsay told us about. So she began with this page. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but I'll hold it up anyway. This page breaks down all the different senses and really is basically looking at relationships and engagement and how that impacts his arousal or feelings of fight or flight, feelings of anxiousness, feelings of heightened awareness as he goes throughout his day. And this is what Lindsay told us. Sam is over responsive to tactile stimulation, things like touch, specifically people that he doesn't know touching him or people that he thinks might come into contact with him. If someone is moving a lot across the room, he worries that they will come over and touch him. She used the analogy that Sam has a very small cup of tactile senses, so his cup overflows very quickly when he is in a situation where there's lots of activity or potential stimulation from touch or tactile. She said that he is always on alert for tactile information, especially when he's out of the home, and that alertness increases his arousal. And when his arousal is increased, he has the fight or flight response. He feels threatened, and so he's constantly on alert, which creates senses of kind of anxiety. She didn't use that word, but anxiety that comes from not knowing when he's going to be challenged in that flight or fight response. I don't know if you've ever had that fight or flight, but your heart pounds and your hands shake because of the adrenaline rush. And that's what he feels, especially when people that he doesn't know try to touch him, or when he is in an environment with kids his own age who are very unpredictable about when they're going to invade your space. So we always knew he had some issues with space in relation to other people, and now we know why. He is over-responsive to his tactile sense, and he has a small cup and it overflows very quickly. Another sense that Lindsay talked about is called the vestibular sense, and that is the sense of our position and movement, kind of like where our body is in space, how gravity impacts our body, and how that impacts our movements. And she said that he doesn't really have an issue with the vestibular sense. I've always thought that he doesn't fall over a ton. Unless he's preoccupied, he doesn't trip and fall, and he tends to know more about where his body is in space than I thought. I didn't think that was a problem, but she said the vestibular issues that he is having has to do with his posture, and this is really one of the first times I've heard that. The problem is his core muscles, his stomach muscles, his back muscles, his shoulder muscles are weak. And because they're weak, he can't hold positions well, and he can't manage his body well. And because he can't manage his body, he feels uncomfortable in certain vestibular activities. So it's not that the vestibular sense is being triggered, but it's that he doesn't feel comfortable being able to manage his movement and body while he's doing those vestibular activities. She put him in a big square swing that was hung by one rope from the ceiling, and he's never even tried to get into that swing before at Hope Therapy at home. But he got in there, but he was on all fours. He was on his knees and his hands like he was crawling. And she set Sam up into a sitting position and even leaned him back a little bit onto there was an inner tube that was in the swing to offer support, and he went right back on all fours. He was using that movement, and it wasn't the movement that was the problem, like the swinging back and forth, but it was the fact that he didn't feel comfortable stabilizing his body because of his core muscles. So things that treat that are activities that strengthen those muscles. We climbed in ball pits, and there's this room that has all these different layers of, they look kind of like hammocks, but they're made out of fabric. And you have to climb from one layer to the next, and it uses arm muscles and leg muscles and stomach muscles. And so we've done that a lot. So those are the things that we've done so far that will help to strengthen those core muscles and to help him feel more stable in his environment. Something else that she talked about that we've known about based on our experiences at Hope Therapy is the proprioceptive, or the joint and muscle sensations. So Lindsay said that Sam doesn't really understand force or pressure. It's called grading. So he doesn't know how hard or soft something needs to be, and he cannot temper the hardness or make the softness more strong if he needs to. For example, he only has one way to kick a ball, and that's as hard as he can. He doesn't know how to temper his movement so that he just kicks it very gently. It's all or nothing. She talked about that in terms of understanding force is the foundation for motor planning. And motor planning tells us how, in our mind, how we're going to act out of movement before we actually act it out. So one of the things we noticed is that Sam could very easily kick the ball with his right foot. And he could kick the ball with his left foot until she asked him to kick the ball with his left foot. And then you could see him pause and think about it and then kick it with his right foot. So those automatic responses are there, but the planning of using particular parts of his body to either create force or to draw back on force or to use his left foot to kick, that planning isn't there right now. And so she's going to be working on using the proprioceptive sense to learn more about force, touch, what's gentle, what's hard, what needs to be if he thinks that something needs to be done really softly, he doesn't know how to then do it hard. Like this bottle of lotion, he thinks it should be really easy to push it down. And so because it's not really easy, he can't decide that, oh, I need to push harder. He'll struggle with it and then ask for help. Lindsay said there might be a little bit of over-responsivity to sound, and that will also trigger some arousal issues in his senses. She's not quite sure yet. Like being in really loud environments sometimes can create stress, and she doesn't know if it's the movement of the people in the environment or if it's the sounds that are going on in the environment or a combination of the two. So we're kind of waiting to see what that's going to be about. So that's a lot of what we talked about today, and understanding the basic senses of what Sam is experiencing. And on this graph, again, that she talked about, she related a lot of these senses that I just talked about, the tactile and the proprioceptive skills, right back to his social participation, which has been a very big concern of ours for well over a year now, especially with children his own age. And she talked about each one of these senses can help hinder his ability to participate socially. So if he feels that people are going to touch him and he's over responsive to that, he's going to draw back in those social situations. Or because he doesn't have as strong of core muscles, he doesn't feel comfortable climbing on things and participating, which can lead to problems with social participation, which makes me feel more confident that Sam will be able to learn and adapt and grow in social situations, because that has concerned me in the past and currently. He's doing much more interaction with kids at school right now based on what the teacher is telling us, and that's awesome, and we're so thankful that we are seeing some interactions. So maybe the cause of the social hesitancy has more to do with these primary senses than it does in some sort of mental or other further issue with social participation. There is another program that STAR offers. It's called the Social and Emotional Piece, that we're just going to kind of wait and see. They don't really recommend doing more than 2. We're doing occupational and speech therapy. But if there is a strong reason to look at the social and emotional aspect, they will recommend that to us later on. After our parent meeting with Lindsay, we had our first occupational therapy, which Jason and I participate in. Lindsay, the occupational therapist, is taking the strong role right now in leading that and modeling for us what's going on and how we should respond to level out Sam's arousal rate. So the arousal seems to be the thing that triggers some issues for Sam, and we're trying to learn how to, if there's something that arouses him, how to adjust to bring it down so that he can begin to realize that arousal just doesn't need to go up, up, and up, and up. That if he's feeling aroused, there's things he can do to bring himself down. So if mom's not there and he's feeling aroused or insecure, he can picture mom, and that picture will help to bring down that arousal. So she's teaching us what we can look for in Sam's arousal response and how we can meet that response as it's going up so that he can very quickly see that it can be brought back down. So we worked in the ball pit, and Jason hid under the balls, and Sam got, where's dad? Where's dad? He knew where he was, but he didn't feel safe because he wasn't right there. So Lindsay showed him, there's dad, and Jason sat up, and then his arousal went down. So we watched other kids play, and we explained what they were doing, and he would feel uncomfortable, and then you could see that it was not that big of a deal. So these arousal bell curves is what we're going to be working on a lot. So we know what the arousal curve is, know where he is in the curve, and know how to bring him back down quickly. So that was occupational therapy today. This afternoon we have feedback from the speech therapist. And then concurrently we're going to talk to the occupational therapist and the speech therapist together to set goals for Sam for all of the therapy sessions that he'll be having. Most of those therapy sessions will be only with the occupational therapist or only with the speech therapist, but some of them will be together, which I'm very excited to see how they work together to help Sam in the occupational area and the speech area, because I wonder if some of the motor planning issues that he has, not being able to really think through and then do, has something to do with his speech as well. So I'm excited to see how they work together and how that all plays out. I'll be doing these vlogs whenever there's good information that I can pass on to you friends and family, and when there's something that's been going on that I really want to remember. So we thank you for all your prayers and support of us. We're excited to see how Sam changes and just the things that God will be doing through this program.